Alrighty. Hello there, everybody. I am jumping on here because essentially I recorded an episode, about an hour's worth of recording a few days ago, and I went to edit it and realized that half of the audio was just missing. So I'm in edit mode right now, but I am here making up for an awkward chunk of just missing content that I started out the whole podcast with. There's about like 20 minutes worth of content that, again, I recorded into this microphone. I'm having weird mic issues and I don't know what the deal is. It's very finicky. Mercury's not even in retrograde. But anyways, I just wanted to jump on here and just try to make sense of the pieced together podcast episode that I'm about to publish here. So anyways, I kind of just jump into things. The section that I lost the content for was about Neptune entering Aries, but I also feel like at the same time I've pretty much laid that out a lot already, so it's probably more or less the same information that I've already given you guys. So anyways, that was just a highlight because we experienced that a couple weeks ago, and that was one of the bigger transits of the year. And I just wanted to kind of, again, just jump on here and make sense of everything. Anyways, I'm just going to apologize in advance. Towards the end, like the last 20 minutes or so, the audio drops out again, but it's still there, but it's a very, very low volume. I'm trying to figure out how to level it out so it's not so awkward. If anything, if I can't figure out how to fix this, you might just need to turn the volume up for the last 20 minutes or so. I just wanted to say today is February 5th. I'm officially 10 days out from my due date, and so this may or may not be the last podcast episode that I put out for just a chunk of time. Again, I wanted to just make that known. Yeah, realistically, I'm going to be kind of in my own little world for the next month or two after this baby decides to come, and whether he decides to be an Aquarius or a Pisces, we'll see, or even the year of the snake or the fire horse, we will see. All of that changes on February 17th, so it's going to be interesting, which also happens to be a solar eclipse. I will get into it more, as you will see once this episode gets rolling, but it's funny because I intended on doing like a full year overview for 2026, and I do to a certain extent. However, I didn't even realize it until like while I was looking at the transits and while I was recording that February of 2026 is the most intense, heavy duty, largest transits of the entire year. So we are just like getting right into it right from the get-go this year. And so I end up talking mostly about February this month. I'm pretty sure I cover every other larger transit as far as like the outer planets go for the rest of the year. Obviously, as time goes by, I'll highlight, the times that we're currently experiencing as well. But just know that this year is what feels like 2025 was relentless. I mean, I think it's safe to say, the last couple of years have been like, okay, 2025 was jam-packed with like very life-altering events in the collective, right? 2026 is an interesting energy as well. It seems as though it's nothing but eventful as well and a bit chaotic as well. And it seems very fast-paced moving. But the biggest difference between 2026 and 2025 that I feel is going to come into play is the fact that 2026 is just like nothing but initiatives and like new beginnings. And again, like I talk a lot about this as this episode goes on, but 2025 and even just like currently, again, we're still in the year of the snake. That has not switched over to the fire horse yet until, again, February 17th. So we're literally seeing like the last just closure of that 2025 energy that's really just like once again just exposing so many skeletons in the closet. That's why this week in particular, once again, the Epstein files are like going viral. They are everywhere you look. It's so strange how this happens where, you know, it's like one week to the next where it's just like one massive event that's quite frankly traumatic to all of us happens, and then we switch gears to the next. I mean, like the last couple of weeks or month or so was all of this ice action, and it's just still so wild. It's so polarizing, every single thing. So I'm jumping around, but now we're seeing this Epstein files like totally coming to the surface. I will also say that right now we are also simultaneously experiencing a Mars and Pluto. We're just kind of getting out of a conjunction with those two planets. And so anything with a Mars Pluto conjunction is like nothing but intensity. And it is, Pluto all about death and rebirth. Mars is aggression and like really stokes the fire and really brings about like dramatic, traumatic potentially shifts, especially in the collective. Why is my smoke alarm beating? So anyways, I'm going to wrap this up. This is just still my intro, but I will get into more of the rest of the year. Again, February is fully loaded. It is like the biggest transits of the year are all happening within February. There's another one in April that I'll get to, but really it's like this kickstart, heavy duty energy of massive shift and just massive change. And again, in order for us to be able to shift into these new beginnings and new worlds is recognizing just how dark the world has been for quite some time and how we can move beyond that. And really the lesson here that I'm continue to just drill home is that we are more sovereign, and also not only that, but we are better together as a collective and not in this manufactured division that these politics and these topics and all of these things continue to divide us over. I'm going to leave it at that. I hope my mic's working. It looks like it is. So yes, I just again wanted to heads up that this might be a more piecemealed podcast episode, and the last, again, 10-20 minutes or so, I think, drop out in audio. I'm working on fixing it. Now my smoke detector is going off, so this is just excellent. So much fun. Mercury's not even in retrograde. What is going on? I think it's just my sign to just quit while I'm ahead because, yeah, I just need to chill on all this. But I wanted to just pump out one last podcast because obviously there's a lot going on in the collective. And of course, it's all a reflection of what's happening in the cosmos. So I wanted to make note of that. Okay, enjoy the episode. So again, it's just this even more of a concrete, kind of more stabilizing energy to, again, bringing these dreams created by Neptune, which will be right there, making them come to reality, which I think is very exciting. So it really comes down to building something. And not only that, but like building something that's going to last. Saturn likes time, but also Saturn likes a very sturdy foundation, like I mentioned before. It's the long-term plans. It's not just a willy-nilly side hustle. It's not like a startup that, never comes to fruition. It is truly crossing the T's, dotting the I's, really laying the blueprint for the manifestations and the realities that you wish to create. And I think this rings true in the collective as well. Like, this is absolutely a time, and this leads into the conjunction of Saturn conjunct Neptune at 0 degrees Aries, which again, just laying like another added layer to this is the 0 degrees Aries is quite like where they're going to meet up exactly on February 20th is quite literally like the most pronounced metaphor for new beginnings. Like, we can't get much more from the start, from the beginning, than 0 degrees Aries. I mean, we look at Aries as actually the beginning of the zodiac and the true beginning of the new year, even though we celebrate January in the Gregorian calendar. But it's truly Aries, which is like springtime and the reset to the whole new system, the whole new time that we are all living through. So it's a big symbolic reset. So Saturn being the planet of structure meets the imaginative, dreamy Neptune. And so again, this is just the icing on the cake of the two kind of topics and themes that I was just talking about. So I personally think it's a very, very exciting time. Again, like Paz and I have mentioned many times before, the last time Saturn and Neptune were conjunct was in 1989, which was literally right around the fall of the Berlin Wall. Paz, like he said, he's been studying this for, 20 something years. So he's been looking forward to this moment for quite some time. Again, just a side note, that happened in the sign of Capricorn. So Saturn actually rules Capricorn. It's very similar in the theme of boundaries, structure, hard surfaces, literally concrete kind of foundations. And again, the fact that the Berlin Wall came down is such a insane symbolic metaphor for that energy of that at that time, Neptune and Saturn pushing boundaries and basically just like dissolving them. Again, Neptune is water, Saturn is earth. And so it's just a really interesting combination. Okay, so hopefully you get the point with that, but it's very exciting. And I think, there's so much to be said about what is happening in the collective right now. There's so much upheaval, there's so much horrors and atrocities happening simultaneously while we are bringing in this new energy. And I am a true believer in the sense that in order for this new world that we all dream of, that we all wish for to come into existence, this old world needs to absolutely become realized to eventually fall and make way for a new one. I mean, you don't build a new house on top of an old one. You typically tear down the old house. Maybe sometimes you use the foundation that's still worth keeping around or still good, the bones of the frame of the house, maybe the chimney, et cetera, et cetera. But you still need to clear the space for that new energy. So that is literally the moment we're in. I mean, if you look at the tarot deck, which I am not a huge tarot person, I don't study them well, but every once in a while I love looking at the cards. We are quite literally in the tower moment right now. So, although people are feeling very hopeless about everything happening in the world, I will say this time and time again, and apologize if I sound like a broken record, but we are literally facing our collective shadows because they need to be seen in order for us to awaken to the truth of how humanity has truly been living under a system that has not ultimately been to our ultimate benefit. And we need to see this and realize it in order for us to collectively awaken and become sovereign in our own way, learn the lessons of never giving our power away again. That's a whole other tangent, but quite literally, we have seen what we're seeing in this world now is a result of giving our power away to the elites, to these external sources, to corporations. The list goes on. So this time is all about reclaiming our power. There's a lot of other transits I'm getting to still, but that is ultimately the lesson. So I hope everybody can take something from that. Okay, the next shift after all of this February, by the way, all of this that I just talked about is just happening in February, and that's not even going through the amount of different aspects that are happening between all of the planets and the relationships that are happening. I mean, literally, as I speak right now, it's February 2nd. There are so many dynamics happening between Uranus and all of these planets as well that are also residing currently in Aquarius. There's, I believe it's Mercury and the Sun, because everything is clumped together in Aquarius at the moment. They're all squaring Uranus. So on top of that, with this tower moment that we're living in, we're having this like moment in time where Uranus is also challenging everything that we are kind of living for, everything that we are communicating with, even Venus, which rules relationships. It is like really making a disruption in all of those other parts of our lives. So Uranus, as we speak, is having its last final moments in the sign of Taurus, where it has been for the last 7 years. So Uranus takes about 7 to 8 years to move through a sign completely. So it has been in Taurus since, which, what's my math? I mean, almost 2018, I believe it moved in there. So it is wrapping up, 2018. It is wrapping up its time there. So again, when a sign like this, a slow moving sign, the outer planets like Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, Pluto, those planets, when they are leaving a sign, it's like their last hurrah. It's like their last big impression as to what they're going to do to like leave their mark in that theme that they've been spending their time in for the last, chunk of time. So as Uranus is wrapping up its time in Taurus, that's also something we're experiencing some upheaval in. Uranus is all about shock to the system, innovation, disruption. And so being in the sign of Taurus was just an earth sign. We've seen this like huge energy shift with massive agriculture and farming and just like how we look at it. I mean, there's been countless amount of food shortage, like disruptions, recalls and just delays with food. I mean, all of these like bird flu things happening. Like it's been one thing after the next that once again is inviting us to really question these agricultural systems and farming, mass agricultural farming systems that have been put into place that we have kind of been deceived into thinking are betterment. And yes, although it's convenient to be able to go to the grocery store and buy whatever we want because things are just getting shipped across the world or the country for our convenience, which is it's a very it's a privilege to have. However, we are finding like holes in that system. We are seeing where it is actually very flawed. So Uranus is here to once again kind of show us like the disruption in that world. And again, Taurus is more than just farming in the earth, it's also rules money. So it's interesting. I just kind of had this realization as I'm saying this, but I've been talking so much about how our monetary financial system is quite literally making a massive, massive rebirth, death and rebirth. I mean, we're seeing the dollar plunge. I had a conversation with Paz, the last episode that I had, but I wasn't quite getting the answers I was looking for with my conversation with him. Yeah, I mean, we are about to witness the fall, I believe, of currency as we know it and see an entirely new system. And, I've gone down the rabbit holes a bit with this, and don't quote me on this because, again, I'm not a financial advisor, but there's a lot of talks about something called the quantum financial system. And so, I mean, quantum physics is a whole other realm and a whole other dimension that a lot of us are not even very familiar with. But that is something that I believe that we are moving into, and I hope that will ultimately serve us for the better. I mean, I think the thing is that's really, truly amazing that I'm seeing from my worldview is that, these monetary oligarchs like the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, who quite literally have ruled the world with their ancient money system, aka slavery system, are coming to an end. Their time is up. I mean, again, don't quote me on this. I'm pretty sure the Federal Reserve was created about 100 something years ago. Hold on, let me just check these dates before I blabber on about this because it would be really interesting to see when all this was started. I need to get somebody on here that's like an expert with money because this would be a really interesting conversation. So, yeah, so Uranus had just left in 1913, when the Federal Reserve was created, it had just left the sign of Capricorn. So Uranus, again, being planet of disruption and innovation in the sign of Capricorn, which is all about structures and, systems that we live through. It's just interesting. And then it had just moved into Aquarius around February 1913. So it's just interesting because like that we're not quite finishing up like a full Uranus cycle more or less, but it's always interesting to see where Uranus was that disrupts the system. Um Regardless, we are in a moment, like I keep saying, these times are just unprecedented. But Uranus is making waves in everything owned by, ruled by Taurus. Like I said, it's making its last final hurrah in the sign. So Taurus again is earth sign, money, farming, the earth, food, resources. It's also luxuries and pleasures and joy. It's ruled by the sign Venus, beauty. So it's like literally reinventing all of those themes in which we look at our lives. And again, it's been there for the last 7 to 8 years. So now moving into the sign Gemini, which is next, and that is coming up April 25th. So coming this spring, Uranus will be entering Gemini. Also, this week in particular, Uranus has been retrograde for quite some time. It is now stationing direct. So we're actually feeling this energy of the last hurrah in Taurus even more. So I don't know what the like stock market's doing. I don't know what like crypto is doing. I think Bitcoin's down right now, but there's a lot of really wild fluctuation happening on all of those like monetary systems, and it's just going to be interesting to see like because everything is just like wavy and up and down and like unpredictable right now. It's really interesting to see once it leaves Taurus for good and moves into Gemini for good for the next 7 to 8 years, um where this like monetary system will be heading. So once it gets into Gemini, Gemini is all about communication and the way that we, our relationships with each other, information, media networks, how we learn, and again, communication. So I think I went into this because again, 2025 was such an interesting year as far as like predicting this new energy that we're permanently, quote unquote permanently, for the next chunk of time moving into, because 2025 had this theme to it where all of these planets that I'm talking about right now moved into these signs for a temporary amount of time, and then they retrograded back out of them, and now come 2026 they're all finally permanently making their residence in these new signs for the next, again, 7 to 40 years. So we are truly entering this whole new massive shift. Again, unprecedented times, because I don't even know the last time all of these outer planets were making such a dramatic shift all within the same like year or two. It's just wild. So again, Uranus being the sign of Gemini is going to totally reinvent, totally disrupt how we communicate, the media, which, my God, what a freaking time to be alive and witness the downfall of the media, because how obvious is it that it is completely just propaganda, and like literally every media outlet has this like goal in mind to tell a story one way or another, and ultimately, in my point of view, divide us. So this is coming to an end. I truly see this time where Uranus entering Gemini is going to disrupt these like media machines that have just been literally created to create separation among all of us. I'm really excited about that. I really think that we will be seeing a whole new world with how we even take in media. At the same time, I almost feel like we're so burnt out on it from the last decade plus since the internet was created, since social media was created. I feel like we're almost like at this like exhaustion point that we're not even taking it in at the levels that we used to. Or at least maybe these younger generations are kind of moving towards that because it's been a part of their lives their whole lives, and it's kind of like old. It's not even that cool or exciting to them anymore. I don't know. Maybe that's like maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but that's kind of how I see that. Excuse me, playing out. And another thing, I mentioned this before, I think maybe in my 2025 overview, I talked a lot about like how telepathy was going to be a new direction of communication that we're moving into. And I absolutely still believe that we will have um, a whole new level of communication to the point where, like, if you really truly think about that, if that does become more mainstream, and if we are more of us are able to really tap into those powers, which I truly believe we're all absolutely capable of that. It's just a matter of tuning our brains to be able to do that in our energy. And I think maybe again, in order to do so, we need to like create a clearing from away from all of the noise and the distraction and the media and like everything. So what I'm getting at with this is like the most exciting part about that is that with telepathy, like there's no way that anyone is getting away with anything. You can't lie to somebody who's telepathic. And just think about again the amount of lies that our entire society has been living under with all of these politicians, all of these celebrities, which quite literally, you know, what was it, a couple days ago or last week, we just saw even more of these Epstein files released. I mean, they're not going to be able to get away with this anymore. And like, it's so exciting to me. I truly feel as though that is the direction that we are moving into. It's just a matter of creating the space to living in that higher frequency, dimension, energy, energetics, whatever you want to call it. All right. Not the best lighting, but we'll take it. Okay, so that was Uranus moving into Gemini April 25th. So I'm excited for that. And again, we're not going to see these types of energetic shifts like overnight, but again, we are in the year of the fire horse that we're coming into, so we might really see these energy shifts faster than ever before. Okay, Neptune will be retrograding in Aries, but I don't think it's going to move out. Neptune and Saturn are going to be retrograding back in Aries. I mean, they'll be in the sign the entire time. It's kind of funny. Saturn will retrograde up until my birthday next year, which is really funny. Um, Pluto will also be going retrograde in Aquarius May 6th to October 15th. So that's kind of a long one, but again, that's like, again, anytime we're going through a retrograde just means like it's like in a review. Um, we're literally reviewing what's not working. Um, so this Pluto retrograde in Aquarius from May to October is also going to be pretty powerful. That will be a time where we are probably going to really reevaluate how technology is shaping our lives and our future. And obviously with AI being a theme of discussion, it's like it's probably going to become extremely obvious to us just how dangerous AI can be and what we need to do in order to navigate that so it's not this unregulated thing that eventually takes humanity down, which that's an exaggeration, but I mean, even just I'm thinking about capitalism and how capitalism is something that, like, okay, could be a good idea in theory. You know, it does provide technically the opportunity for anybody and everybody to make money however they wish. However, unchecked and unregulated has led to where we are now, where we have like this teeny little portion at the top and a whole bunch of people, the masses at the bottom who are, yeah, just like wealth has been completely unevenly distributed. So I can see AI having a similar effect on that. But at the same time, AI also hopefully can really start leveling the playing field and create opportunities for everybody. Um, I did not realize this, but apparently all of these planets are going to be going retrograde at some point. Which is fine. I mean, they're not going to be moving out of their like permanent signs here completely. They're just retrograding in those signs. So Neptune, Saturn, Pluto, Uranus, and Venus will all be making retrogrades in their signs. Which again just will lead to more of a review of how they're doing so far in their new signs and what we're doing with this energy and like where things could be maybe improved. And again, it's like when we're dealing with this on a collective level, it really just comes down to like, okay, so how can we improve this? And sorry, what it comes down to is it becoming extremely obvious to us where something needs improvement. Because if it's not super obvious and loud and in our faces, like everything in the world right now, then we're not going to change. We're just going to become complacent and just be fine with how we're living our lives. So again, like 2026 is not going to be just coasting through, even though it is very exciting with this fire horse energy. It is going to still feel like a big momentum into the year and a big, like, fresh new energy. But it's not going to be easy. And, I don't think any time is ever easy. That's not the right word, but it's not like we're not quite out of the woods yet. And I do feel like I remember saying that last year. And we're still like just wrapping up like where we can improve our systems. Like that's all I could keep coming like this big focus on systems. And just like how we function as a society. And again, it doesn't even mean like you know, um that we all need to live under one. I mean, it's like the United States of America, where I live, is kind of insane at the fact that like we think that I don't know how many people are in this country, 300 million or something. Um that's a random number. Don't quote me on that, but like it's kind of insane how we think that 300 million something people are able to just live under this one blanket way of life, and we continue to expect other people to live how we expect to live and how we want to live. We just think that everybody will flourish the way that we live. And so I think that there are certain aspects to that that can be true. I do think that we all can live harmoniously under some blanket ways of society, but I do also feel like we are moving into this new world and timeline where it's actually coming down to more of a localized, smaller, communal way of living. Sorry, dog's barking. Um, I think that's going to be one of the hard lessons of the United States of America. Again, a lot of people keep talking about the, anniversary of the Civil War. That was Neptune and Aries last time. And a lot of people are afraid that it's going to be this repeat situation. But I truly do not think that that is going to happen, even though, again, this country is bonkers right now. Like, we are all, I don't know. It's so sad to me to see how truly divided we are and how manufactured that is. Like, it's just when we all wake up to the fact that all of these topics and themes that make their way just every now and then, all of these topics that will just make their way into the media and the headlines that are more divisive than ever. Again, it's like things like abortion laws or gun laws and the transgender issues and like, yeah, all of these things that ultimately, and don't get me wrong, I think they're very important, but at the same time, it's like those are some of the most divisive tactics that the puppet, that the, not the puppets, but like the puppet string holders are quite literally bringing to the surface every time they're looking for us to be completely distracted and to be at each other's throats about, because they know that so many of us have such strong opinions about these topics that they'll always result in a conflict among all of us people. And truly, that's not what we should be putting our energy towards. It should actually be putting our energy towards like working together to actually take down these guys up top. But again, because this planetary energy happening over the, last couple of years into 2026, 2027, it's just not standing for, it's not the energy to continue to hold them into power. It's all about the power to the people. The Pluto in Aquarius is like the overarching, very, very heavily influential theme of all of us for the next 30 something years. So that's the biggest one that I can't stress enough. And I know I say it all the time, but that is one of the most important, um, I don't know, just one of the most important focuses that I think that we need to all be focusing on more than these other divisive tactics that are thrown in our faces all the time. So, um, I just also wanted to take a moment to just say that this is probably my last podcast for a little while. Yeah, I got a baby on the way in 2 weeks, so we'll see how that goes. Also, really wildly coincides with these crazy Neptune and Saturn conjunction in Aries, which is really interesting when it comes to determining a person's natal chart. So we'll see how close he wants to be towards that energy. I mean, at this point, even right now, is still very close. So it's kind of cool to think about. Um, but regardless, I just wanted to say thank you as always for being here and supporting me and listening to me and taking the time out of your day to listen to me ramble on about all this stuff. Um, and again, I know the world is absolutely crazy out there, but have faith that we are moving into a whole new world. And I think if we all spend our energy focusing on what it is that we wish to create, the world that we want to see in the future, the world of like how we want to live our lives in harmony with Mother Earth and each other, that's the energy we need to put our focus in. Okay, thank you so much.